Hip Hop Marvels podcast.
You want that?
Your friendly neighborhood plug for all things hip hop and Marvel. We got it locked from your block to the comic shop.
Okay, out there in Marvel Land, face front, this is Stan Lee speaking. You've probably never heard this before, so anything is liable to happen.
It's your boy Dub Floyd in the place to be, and in the place to be is Dub Floyd. This is the Hip Hop Marvels podcast, INBETWEENERS segment. I'm here with my squad member, Brandess. Say what's up, Brandess.
Hi, everybody.
You always sound enthused.
Late night.
A late night, right? We have a very dope, dope guest today. He's part of the home team.
B-Town.
You know what I'm saying? B-Town representing. Whoop whoop. He's went to high school with Brandess and I, and when Brandess told me about his venture into the comic book world, I was thrilled. I was like, we definitely got to have him on so he can show the masses what he's about and what he does. He's the owner of Terrio Jenkins LLC. He's a comic book publisher and creator of Favor of Athena webcomic. I'd like to introduce Terrio Jenkins. What's up, man? How's it going?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me. Brandess, long time no see.
Still like, yeah. But yeah, so I'm it's dope have you on the show, man. Like I told you, like I told Brandess, we definitely had to have you on so you could talk about all things Terrio Jenkins LLC. And yeah, man, we're gonna get right into it. So Terrio, every hero has an origin story. Tell us a little bit of your origin story. Let us know a little bit about yourself and how you got started, how Terrio Jenkins LLC came to be.
I read my first comic book probably like around second grade, which was She-Hulk, which I know is surprising to a lot of people, but She-Hulk was the first comic book I ever read. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then just over the years, just taking in more cartoons and more comics, I got into the mindset of when I grow up, this is what I wanted to do. And so high school hit, and teachers were like, oh, you got a talent for this, you got a talent for that, you should go for it. But funny story, my parents are super supportive of me being an artist, but at the time in high school, I was like, being an artist is hard. So I was gonna go to college for psychology before my dad convinced me otherwise. So in college, I majored in animation when I went to Rutgers, and eventually graduated from Philly Dickinson with a liberal arts degree. And around the time I was still in the Army, I had joined the Army, and it wasn't.
Hey, fellow soldier, huh? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 40. I came in as a 42 Alpha. I left as a 92 Whiskey.
I was getting ready to ask you your MOS, and I'm 13 Bravo myself. So.
Oh, all right.
So yeah. So thank you for your service, man.
Oh well, thank you for your service.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. But continue.
Yeah. So I volunteered to deploy to Iraq in 2008. And around this time, I always had an idea for my comic book. Like I knew I wanted to do Greek mythology, and I knew I wanted to do something that was, kind of similar to X-Men, where everybody had their own individual power. But one of my shortcomings was I was trying to do everything Stan Lee and Marvel did. In 60 years, I was trying to do.
Oh, you was trying to do the yeah.
I was trying to do it within a year, and so a lot of my stories and projects around the time never got completed. So I volunteered to deploy to Iraq in 2008, and while in Iraq, I actually wrote my first comic book series. It was 5 issues, and I couldn't find an artist to draw it. That's a whole nother story.
That's always, I've heard plenty of our stories about that because you have this you have this great idea, and it's just like you want to get it out. I mean, I can imagine a writer wanting to have that dynamic that Stanley and Kirby had, with the whole Marvel method, type, let me paint the picture for you and you just draw it, like that. So
and just couldn't find like I remember the first artist that I was kind of like interviewing. He kept drawing all my female characters with big boobs, and at the time the characters were inspired by my friends. So I was like, look, you can't do that. My friends are gonna be
like, yeah, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, what? Like, wait a minute, how come we all like? Is that all you think about us, man? Like, what the heck is going on here?
So I had told him that they need to, you got to draw them realistically. And then he all he did was like, if they were like a triple D, he just dropped it down to like a double D. So I was like, this isn't gonna work. So then I got into the mindset of, I'm just gonna have to do the art myself. So I got really serious about my drawing, but I was like, I just don't have the time for everything that I was doing at the time. So I had a friend that suggested, why don't you turn it into a novel? So at the time, the name of the series was Scarlet Knights. So when I started writing the novels, and I wrote 2 novels for Scarlet Knights, I had changed the series to favor Aries. And then I've been trying to get it edited and published, I would say for over a decade, just trying to rework it and everything.
Right.
And I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I need to just find a new network. So I went back to school for my Master's of Fine Art in Creative Writing at Full Sail. And I thought it was going to be more of a creative writing course geared toward prose writing, but it was more screenwriting. And I had a class called Multimedia Adaptation. And in that class, we had 2 choices. We can either adapt the story that she gave us and adapt that into a short film. And at this point, me and my peers, that's all we've done in all our courses is short films. And then the other choice was you could adapt a previous story that you wrote into a comic book, right? So I was like, I'm gonna do the comic book, just to do something different. And so I chose one of the earlier stories that I did, and in the process, it was like the light bulb went off, like this, because around this time I was like, screenwriting is so much easier than novel writing, and I was like, I really can see myself doing this as a career. But I don't know if I'm going to go into TV, films, cartoon, animation, comic books. And then during this class where I was adapting one of my stories, I was like, this is me. This is it. Comic books. You know the terminology. You know the history. You already had a comic book. So I decided. And then my teacher actually had me teach one of the classes. So that was cool. So then after that, I decided to reread some of my previous books on making comic books. And that class was since July, I believe. So August was when I read the books. September was when I started my Patreon. And October was when I started writing the script for Favor of Athena, which is now a rewrite of Favor of Aries and Scarlet Knights. Gotcha. So that's so that's pretty much how I get my start.
Yeah, that's dope. How and it's crazy because as artists, as creatives, things that we tend to think that things that we create get dated, because we created them, but to the masses, they don't know this. You know what I'm saying? So we're able to dig into our archives and pull out something, and someone with something old to us, and it's new to them. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I like how I like how you took the old story and kind of made it, kind of revised it and made it something new. And
it's also coming from a different perspective now, because when I wrote the initial script, I was 25. Now doing the rewrite, I have
like more knowledge.
I have more knowledge.
Right.
Format the script, because that's one of the reasons why people wouldn't read my comic book script initially 10 years ago, was because it wasn't formatted correctly. So it's it's like I'm wiser now, and it's like
right.
And even from a business point of view, I know more than what I did when I was 25. So
right,
it's been a long road, but you're right. I was able to take the old material and repurpose it for the comic book series now. Right.
You said, early on, you said that like She-Hulk was like one of your favorite comics. So, it's quite obvious you're a comic book fan, and but from reading, Favor of Athena, I noticed that like the style, there's kind of a manga anime style, so like, or influence, I should say, right? So, in your work, like, are you more of a manga anime fan than you are a comic book fan, or like, is there an equal balance? Or
I would say now, I think it is up and down. My whole life I was a comic book fan. Marvel forever, DC was second. You know what I mean?
Right. Marvel gang.
Right. I'm Team Red all day.
Right.
Yeah, but I would say maybe like around the mid 2000s was when I started getting into anime, and I wouldn't even say really get into it. It was only like maybe like 3 or 4 shows that I was watching. It wasn't until I came back from my deployment, because it had nothing to do with anime and stuff.
Right.
I would say when I came back from my deployment in 2009, I had the anime book, but it was still, I would say it was a healthy balance then. And then after my divorce in 2012, I kind of jumped more into the anime and the mangas. So I started collecting more mangas and anime around that time. And because for me, the comic books that Marvel and DC were putting now, at the time, I was only really into like Superior Spider-Man and the all new X-Men. Everything else felt kind of repetitive, I guess, which is another reason why I wanted to go out and like create my own.
Right.
So these days I would say I think it's balanced again. I definitely have been reading more comic books, especially from the independent scene, to see who my competition is.
Okay, so I guess my next question was going to be, what are some of your favorite anime, manga, and then on the flip side of that, some of your favorite comics. So you can start with like anime, manga. What are some of the ones you're checking out and that pique your interest now, like today?
All right, so I recently started reading Demon Slayer. So I think it's cool.
That's a fan favorite, right? Definitely.
And see, the thing with me is I'm one of those people where whatever the newest fad is, I'm not in it right away. I'm like that person that comes in like 2 years later. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. And everybody else is like,
where you been?
Where have you been?
Right.
So now Demon Slayer, I wasn't too late to the party. I think I came in when the anime was getting ready to end its first season. Is when I got onto it. And but I recently started collecting the manga. I think it's I think from a story perspective, it's not really unique, right? It's kind of like the same story that we see from a lot of manga and anime, but I just love the storytelling and how they try to be unique. Like, the villains are, to me, I was like, they're just unique, So Demon Slayer's one. This is another one that's been out for a while now, but Tokyo Ghoul, I started checking that one out.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. Now you're talking like all time. My all-time favorite is Bleach. Which actually kind of helped me with the rewrite of Favor of Athena. So there's Bleach, Soul Eater. I was into One Piece, but One Piece is so massive.
Right.
It's massive. It's hard to keep up with everything. But yeah, so those are a few of my favorite animes and mangas. And like I said, Demon Slayer is my current one. Fire Force is another one that I'm still reading. Comic book wise, I was so I grew up a Captain America fan.
Oh,
so
wow, Captain. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Team Cap. So growing up, I gravitated towards X-Men and the Avengers, but more so Avengers.
Same here.
Yeah, so nowadays I just picked up X-Force, or is it X Factor? I think it's X Factor. And I'm trying to get back into reading Marvel more regularly these days. So I just picked up, I think it's X-Force. Because it's like Force. It's like a weird team. So I don't know if you guys ever stepped away from comic books or anything.
Yeah, no, I have plenty of times, and that's one of the reasons why. I guess I could say that was one of the influences for me starting Hip Hop Marvels, the movement, and the podcast, because I've always had that battle. If I ever stepped away from comics, it's because it was to either pursue hip hop or just I spend my money on CDs or hip hop CDs, and then I would leave that alone and come back to the comics. So it's always been a back and forth thing for me as far as the literature. But with the introduction of the MCU, it's more easy to follow now. You know what I'm saying? Because everything's so drawn out and stretched and long, so it's easy, when there's a movie that drops.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, when there was I was saying that when there's a movie that drops, then you go see the movie and you can dwell on that for a while until the next one comes out. It's not like, some of these series where you get 2 issues per month, or sometimes 4 issues per month. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I can definitely sit here and tell you that I follow the MCU like I used to follow the comic books. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
With the exception of the Externals, I've seen every movie in theaters at least twice. And then, and now that, I'm pursuing screenwriting, I go to the Marvel movies, sometimes the DC movies, but I go to the Marvel movies and I try to break down, hey, this is what they did at this particular scene, which is a beat, and try to really learn. I'm definitely a fan of the MCU. I just think the way they tell the stories and how they can, who would have thought, right? As comic book fans, right? Who would have thought that Ant-Man would have had his own film?
Man, I'm still and that it would be successful too at that, because I wasn't the biggest Ant-Man comic fan. I appreciated him because he was there in the beginning of the Avengers,
right?
But comic book wise, but I never got into Ant-Man like that. But the MCU made me appreciate it.
And that's the thing that I love about the MCU. So not just Ant-Man, right? And then I think they chose the right Ant-Man to go with. Scott Lang instead of him. But,
right, exactly.
Even when you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, I remember when they announced that they were going to do Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like, well, which one?
Right? Exactly.
There's 4 iterations of the team,
right?
And to be honest, it doesn't matter which of the 4 iterations you go with. Nobody outside, the only people that know them are
like
like us, right?
True comic fans. Yeah. So, and I was wondering how that was going to turn out. You know,
I was like, all right, Marvel, I'm going to trust you. And then boom, that was successful. And again, that's definitely in my Marvel MCU top 10.
I only watch it for Groot.
You only watch it.
But see, that's what I'm saying, right, Brandon? It's like Groot. Who would have thought Groot would become such a fan favorite?
Rocket Raccoon, a talking tree.
No, I mean, like Rocket Raccoon, who was like a joke character in the comic books, is now he's like, I don't know how many kids love him, And then, Doctor Strange was another one where I was like, that's very. Not really obscure like Guardians of the Galaxy, but just another like I don't know, Marvel. Oh, never mind. Let me stop saying that.
He was another one that I appreciated because of his dealings with the Avengers and stuff, but I never really got into. But now I'm like actually like
one of my top 10.
He plays an important part in Secret Wars, and that's coming. So they had to make him. They had to make him a big deal.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fact that he plays. I think it's an important part. Like from here on going out. And what's crazy is like the movie that I'm most excited for coming up is his. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm an Iron Man fan through and through. Like I'm our team Iron Man all day.
Gotcha. All right.
But, like Doctor Strange, I would have never thought in a million years, like as a kid, like, oh my gosh, like Doctor Strange. I can't wait for his movie. Who
else they made me like? And it's crazy because it was one of the first movies. They made me like Incredible Hulk because like even reading Hulk in the comic books, it was like, all right, he's the strong guy, blah blah blah. But I was never really into him. But when they had the 2008 movie, the MCU movie,
right,
I was like, God, this character's amazing. And then Nebula, again from Guardians of the Galaxy, she's like one of my favorite characters. And I only remember reading her once, and that was during the Infinity Gauntlet storyline.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I was like, I never thought she'd be so vital to the whole MCU, storytelling aspect. But yeah, it's amazing, and which is why, because we've gotten, some listeners, and they would, email and hit me up and say, hey, why don't you guys talk about any of the comics that much on your show or whatever? And you guys mostly focus on the MCU, and my answer is because it's easy for everybody to follow. You understand what I'm saying? It's it's like it's more, like I said, the story is more drawn out, more precise, for outside folk, for even people that they have no clue about the comics or the characters from the comics. They can just dive in and kind of know what's going on as it's being told to them. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we choose to go that route. But in the future, I do plan on getting into some more of the literature. You know what I'm saying? As far as Marvel comics is concerned. So but no, that's dope. I know you said some of your favorite like Marvel comics. I know you mentioned earlier that you said you been checking out some independent comics. What are some independent comics you've been checking out?
All right, so I'm a big fan of Dream Keepers, which is written and illustrated by David Lilly. And the cool thing about him is that when I had finished my second novel for Favor, at the time, Favor of Aries, I had submitted it to his company because he has his own comic publishing company as well. Right. And he liked the book, but it wasn't what they were looking for. Dream Keepers is kind of like for anybody that is fans of furries or like animal characters, but it's like a really dark story that he's telling, and it's really good. Matter of fact, that's one of the he's one of my inspirations for, you know what? Maybe I should go for comic books and do it. You know what I mean? So, and he does everything mostly by himself. It's him, his wife is the editor, and then they had like some help with the coloring, I believe. But he's branched out. He has turned Dream Keepers into, I have no idea what he's making. But I know, like, on his Patreon, I believe he was making like over $2,000 a month at one point. He now has like a card game.
Oh, wow.
He's like, he has plushies. You name it, he has it, right? To the point where he's no longer even selling the graphic. So he has a graphic novel series, and then he has a prequel webcomic called Prelude, which tells the character stories from when they were kids, and that's something that he does weekly. And
so he's just like kind of running with that. He's kind of just running with that, and then the rest of the.
He's still working on the graphic novel series, because I think that's what everybody comes to his page for,
right?
But he does a lot of behind the scenes stuff where we get to see him do the process. He keeps everybody updated. When he does his Kickstarters sell out. They get funded within hours.
Wow.
Like he's his work is really amazing. And he's another one that's, he was like, I just got tired of comic books and seeing the same stuff over and over again. So I wanted to go out and make my own. So Dream Keepers is one of my favorites. He's working on volume 5.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah, it's dreamkeeperscomic.com, I believe. Yeah, really good storyline. All the graphic novels are now free. You just have to download them from the site. It's really good series. And he's somebody that, that's who I'm kind of trying to emulate.
Right.
LLC. And then another good series that I follow, and me and David, we, I just emailed him the other day, telling him like, hey, my company went from $90 last year to now we're grossing about $300 a month now. So I recently emailed him. Another good independent comic is Tuskegee Cares.
Yes.
This is written by Greg Berto and drawn by Marcus Williams. Now I have a funny story about Tuskegee Cares. So so when I was in that multimedia adaptation class I was telling you about, right? One of our assignments that we were supposed to do was we were supposed to find people in our field and interview, right? So I sent, I probably sent out like 10 interview requests, and I wasn't expecting anybody to answer. One of them was Greg Byrne, right?
Wow.
So I think the very next day he responded back to me. He's like, I'll do the interview. So I got the chance to interview with Greg, and we talked about comics and how like there's a lack of diversity, but definitely a lack of Black characters. And that's what him and Marcus set out to do.
Yeah,
fill that niche, right? So after that, I told him that I was starting my comic book and he would be my mentor. So he's another comic book creator who I go to kind of like, hey, can you look at this? Tell me what you think. And he gives me advice. He told me, he was like, I think you need to invest in the editor. I was like, awesome. Right. But here's the funny story. So this past summer, one of the things that we're taught as screenwriters is you need to read your script out loud. And so me and my girlfriend, we have a video game series. I'll get into that a little later. Where we had people volunteer to be voiceover artists, but we never got a script done or anything. So I got this idea to kind of do like a podcast of doing table reads. So I sent out a blast on Facebook. I had a couple of people respond, and one of the people that responded was my best friend from childhood, Devin Stewart. We knew each other since we were like 6 or 5. And, and we kept in contact here and there, but, the beauty of Facebook, right? he's like, hey, I'm down. Let me know. So he's been part of my my table read podcast on our Patreon, where we read the script, and I'm like, oh, we're just gonna turn it, once we get a real polished episode down, we're actually gonna publish the episode. And I was like, that's just another avenue to make money.
I was gonna go there. It's crazy you said that. I was gonna go there, but yeah, and we'll go there a little bit later. But yeah, continue the story, because I was thinking about, like, this could definitely be a dope animation. Like,
yes,
come on.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, we'll get there, man. Because I'm telling you, my whole this journey has been such an eye-opening experience. So Devin and I, after the podcast was done, me and my cast, we like to kind of like talk, like, what can we do to push the comic out? And so he was talking about how, and at this time I had to fire one of my artists on the book. So we were talking about the search to find a new artist, and try to find new artists in time so that we could keep releasing on the Patreon. We release our comic book pages 2 pages at a time. So it was like imperative for me to hurry up and find a new artist so that we can keep our promise to our readers. And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna talk to my friend and see if he can get the artist that did his book for him. And we just happened to be talking about Tuskegee Harris at the time. Well, without him realizing what the title was, or I can't remember how it happened. So I show Tuskegee Harris to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's the book that my friend did."
And he's talking about his friend is Marcus? Like,
no, his friend is Greg.
Right? Oh, his friend is Greg. Okay.
Yeah. So as we're talking about Tuskegee Harris, it hit me. I'm like, wait, so your friend is Greg? And he's like, yeah, we went to college together. We're like good friends and everything. And I was like, that's my mentor. He's the whole he's one of the reasons why I set out to do Favorite Athena. So we started laughing. And so now, if Greg sees this or anybody sees this, the goal is trying to get Marcus to do one of our covers.
yeah. Shout out Greg and Marcus, man. I last seen Marcus, when was it? I last seen Marcus back in 2019. I think it was 2019 at the NC Comic Con here in Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And matter of fact, I think Greg was here as well, if I'm not mistaken. They had the booth set up or whatever. So and I think I hit Greg. I hit Marcus up. But that's a dope story, man. That's dope.
Yeah,
and I love
this thing where it's like it's a small world. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, like my best friend from childhood is friends with my mentor.
Exactly, and that's one of my favorite, independent comics, and one of my favorite artists as well too. Marcus, man. He is. He kills it. He kills it, man. Like for real.
Man. And then just his ideas from his like independent work.
For sure.
So so I'm like, oh man, we can just get a comic book cover,
like a variant cover or something, right? Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's just gonna put us out there even more. So it was just a funny, coincidence. So Tuskegee Harris. And as far as independent comics, that's where it goes. I started reading the Uniques, and what's the name of it? I just started reading it. I think it's called Color in the Darkness. I can't remember the name of the other series, but it's done by this husband and wife team. Their name is Comfort Love and Adam Withers. They also have a self-publishing guide to comics, which is what kind of also helped me make my comic. And they're really, really responsive too. Like, I almost had an internship with them, but they don't do writing.
Right.
But they're very responsive as well. And the Uniques is a really cool story. So far, it's kind of like Teen Titans, but if it was on HBO.
Oh, okay, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah, you know. So I'm like, ooh, all right. So yeah, so those are the three that I'm reading now, and then I get a couple here and there on my Patreon and my website. One of the things that I'm doing this year to help promote my theme this year is I want to promote other Black creatives.
Right.
So I get interviewing other Black comic book creators and writers and artists, and then trying to promote their stuff on my website and on my blog. And so so I'm trying to read their material as well, and I'm going to do reviews and stuff like that.
Right. That's what's up. So before we get out of here too, I want to get in. Let's get into Favor of Athena. When I first started reading it, I was thinking to myself like, okay, because as a kid I always been a fan of Greek mythology, and so I was like, okay, so where did he get the idea to combine the Greek mythology with, because there's a lot of different elements here at play. You know what I'm saying? You got Greek mythology, you got the paranormal, you got you got detective, solving crimes and mysteries and everything. So like, how'd you come up with like all of those elements to because it's very different. It's very different from anything out there because of the different elements involved. One of my favorite comics is Bitterroot, you know what I'm saying, by David Walker, you know what I'm saying, Sanford Green and Chuck Brown. And their thing is they mix like steampunk with like the Harlem Renaissance, with like fighting monsters. And so it's like all these different it's all these different elements in one, and I'm just like blown away by that, like the fact that they can fit all of that in a comic. Right. And shouts out to all those guys because it's been picked up to be turned into a movie, which is crazy.
Oh, that's the dream.
You know what I'm saying?
That is the
right.
dream,
you know
right?
What I'm saying? and this is an all Black, you know what I'm saying? All Black creative team, you know what I'm saying? And
right.
It's dope, man. So yeah, what was on your mind, man? Yeah, take me there. What was on your mind?
All right, so like I said earlier, so in my early 20s, I always knew I wanted to do a story. So I won't even say comic. I always knew I wanted to do a story, and I always wanted to combine it with Greek mythology. I just didn't know where I was going to take it. I also wanted to do something that was unique, or try to be as unique as possible. I'm a huge fan of crime shows and superheroes, so I was like, oh, what if I did like a superhero crime kind of show, using Greek mythology as kind of like the history and the mythology behind the series. And so I wanted to do, like, it's crazy. So initially the concept, I finally sat down and did the first 5 issues. The concept was essentially X-Men meets CSI, right? Using Greek mythology as kind of like the setting. And then over the years, I've incorporated like the 7 Deadly Sins. I use a lot of abnormal psychology when it comes to the books. But I don't know if you guys it happens to you, but you get so inspired by everything that you like, you start to throw that into your writing. So eventually my book actually became like it was like a hodgepodge of like Ghostbusters, fairy tale, the anime, like it became a lot. And that was something that David Lilly pointed out, was like, you got a lot of concepts. If you can make it a little more simpler, so I cut a lot of that out. But that's pretty much where it was all inspired by. It was really inspired initially by X-Men and CSI, and just using Greek mythology to kind of like bring everything together. So like I told you, it went from Scarlet Knights to Favor of Ares to Favor of Athena. I can't tell you how many times that the mentor of the group has changed. Like at one point it was Hephaestus. At one point.
Oh wow.
I was trying, like I said, I was trying to be unique. So I didn't want everybody, you know, as far as like the Greek gods, I didn't want everybody doing the same old stuff. Which is why Ares was, not originally. That's why I had chose Ares to be the mentor, because, you know, everybody always thinks of Ares as kind of like the villain, the bully.
Right.
So I was trying to paint him in a different limelight, but I changed it to Athena because, you know, it did kind of make more sense for Athena to have her own group. But even my Athena, my interpretation of Athena is definitely different from the other Athenas, you know, because when the book picks up, within the first 2 pages, you find out that she broke a sacred vow and she lost some of her powers. So she's not even as strong as Ares and everything. And then you're sitting there like, what vow did she break? She's the Greek goddess of wisdom. And, you know, even Ares he makes fun of her in that regard. He's like, I don't care if you're the Greek goddess of wisdom. I bet you fell again, you know? And you know, I just thought that was an interesting part of Athena's character to explore. Because, you know, she's always supposed to be the smartest one. She's always supposed to be the one that helps the heroes. And when you read it, you'll see that, you know, she's very selfish.
Yes.
And doesn't realize it, you know, with like that's one of the things me and my cast was talking about the other day, because we just started doing issue 2, and it's real apparent that she's out for herself, but she doesn't see that she is.
Right. So, and I like your take on that, because like here is, you know, like you said, she's, you know, supposed to be the goddess of wisdom, but, you know, here she is, you know, showing a lot of, like, she's not practicing selflessness but selfishness, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so yeah, I thought that was actually dope. So yeah, I know you said you know you do, you know, you had you know, gathered some folks to do voiceovers and stuff like that. So you know, one of the questions that, you know, I was asking earlier was, did you ever, you know, or do you ever consider turning this into animation, you know, to where, you know, there's, you know, episodes and, you know, you do have voiceovers and, you know, things of that nature?
So my goal from the very start was to make a comic book and hope that Marvel picks it up or Image picks it up, right, for the distribution, and then hopefully, you know, somebody comes along and they're like, hey, let's make a cartoon series, or hey, let's make an anime series, or let's do a movie or a TV series. That has always kind of been like the ultimate goal, right? Now over the years, you know, as a creator, you go, oh well, that's probably not really going to happen. I'll just settle for making a novel and hopefully it becomes, you know, a good, you know, a best-selling book in the sci-fi or the mystery categories. Once I started doing the comic book, one of the first things I started doing was a newsletter, you know, thanking everybody, right? And then, like I said, I don't know what made me start asking for people. I think for my Patreon, I was trying to do something different, and I had used, I learned with Final Draft that the script can be read by different AIs, but the AIs are all robotic. So when I created my first recording and put it out to my Patreons, they were like, "Oh, this is dope, but I would like to hear regular voices and not the robotic voices." So that's when I reached out to people, and, you know, people responded, and they were willing to do it for free. Because, you know, creators, you know, we're broke in the beginning.
Right.
So, you know, I had a lot of people. I love my crew. My crew's doing the voiceover stuff for free. They're also helping out to promote. Like, everybody's doing something different. Everybody has a different role. And so once we had like our first read through of scene 1, I was like, oh my god, we can so turn this into an anime series because now we have a podcast, we have a table read component to go along with the script in the actual book when it's done. So that might be, another avenue to get in an animation deal. So we actually do have an animatic done of scene 1, and the ultimate goal is to eventually pitch the series to Netflix or Hulu. And if they don't pick us up, we're just gonna do it ourselves.
Hey, and that's the best way to do it, man. Like, cause you don't owe anyone anything at that point. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. It's been great having you, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Before we get out of here, let everyone know where they can, check out the webcomic. Let everyone know your social media. And anything else you want to, promote and let the folks know.
Okay. So we are getting ready to start up another comic book series called Angel Protocol. That is actually going to be an all-black cast. So you can look out for that. For all of that, you can visit the website, www.terriojenkinsllc.com. That's the easiest way to get to our social media. It's the easiest way to get to the webcomic because the webcomic is on Webtoons, where we have over 1,187 views and we have 27 subscribers on Webtoons. So you can find us there, but the easiest way to get there is through my website, www.terriojenkinsllc.com. You can feel free to support us on the Patreon. That's also on the website. So that's the easiest way to get there.
All right, and like I said, I appreciate you taking the time out to chop it up with the Hip Hop Marvel Squad, man. And you're more than welcome back. We definitely got to have you back when the new joint comes out. You know what I mean? Definitely.
Yeah. We're gonna try to produce that one a little faster than we did last year. Because like I said, we did 2 pages a month. We're trying to increase that so if we can get more investors and supporters on the Patreon, that will help go a long way. So yeah, we're definitely trying to crank out issue 2 so that we can get episode 2 out.
Right. Definitely, man. I appreciate your time and
appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Brandess, you know what it is.
Yeah. All right.
Y'all have a good night.
You
All
too.
right. Good night.
Good night.